All right, good afternoon, listeners. You're listening to the Lament of Hope blog and podcast. I'm here today with Danny Bonaduce. Many of you may know him from the Partridge Family, actually, many of you listeners. Um, he played Danny Partridge, and he's
Yeah.
since gone on to do a whole bunch of stuff, different TV shows and boxing and his own radio show. But now he's actually retiring, so this is his last interview. So I'm really blessed to get to speak with him. So Danny, I'm just going to kind of start out with a question. I wanted to ask you, what do you think the hardest thing about being an actor has been?
Oh, no problem there. The answer is getting a job. By far, the answer is trying to get a job. There's something, I'm making up these stats, but they're somewhere in the ballpark. There's 300,000 people in the Actors Guild, Screen Actors Guild, and there's 400 parts a year. That tells you nobody that, when was the last time you had a friend that went out for a job like all, young people in Hollywood do, and they go for a job? When was the last time you saw one of your friends, or even you for that matter, get a killer TV? When was the last time you were on SVU or something like that? It's next to impossible to get a job. So the hardest thing about being an actor in television is by far and away getting the job.
Do you think it's even worth trying then?
Oh yeah, of course it's worth trying. Because I do know someone. Know someone that wanted to be a TV star. I knew him in high school, and he didn't get a job worth talking about till he was 20 years in the business. And he finally, his name is Joe Lando, and he finally came Sully on Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman. Changed his life forever. Still has a very nice home, very nice wife, and 7 kids or something like that. But he can feed them all from being on television. So yeah, it's worth the effort, but don't hold your breath. This is the toughest part. The second toughest part, and I'll tell you this honestly, is finding a parking spot. Now they invented Uber. It's a great idea. But when my mom, and she took me on, with Partridge Family wasn't the only thing I did. I did stuff years before that. And I just remember my mom in our weird Volkswagen Bug going around Hollywood and the Valley and all this stuff, trying to get to a job because I started this when I was 4. You can't let a 4-year-old out of the car in Hollywood. She's got to find that space and walk me hand in hand. So the second hardest thing about getting a job is finding a parking space.
What did you want to be an actor when you were young?
I'm going to say yes, so not to make my mom look bad, but I don't remember. I've been doing it forever. I did, when I was 4, I did a Roman meal bread commercial, and I did a pretty good job. And they liked me and hired me back. The big gun for me before the Partridge, and I did a lot. I did a couple episodes of Bewitched and things like that. But the big show for me, and I don't even know if I had any dialogue because we didn't have Google that year. I did a movie with Elvis Presley when I was 7 years old. And that, it's funny, I'll be telling stories about all crazy Hollywood stuff and everything. Oh, we're enjoying your stories, Bonaduce. And then I say I did a movie with Elvis and everything stops. And that's what everybody wants to know about. And he was a great guy. He was very nice to me.
Did you enjoy doing it?
That particular job or acting?
Both, actually.
Um, it's funny because the one reason I may not have liked doing that movie was there were lots of kids in it. And I will tell you this from experience, there is no human being in the world that sucks more than a child actor. And you load up a set with child actors, and it's just people who suck. There's one who sucks. There's one who sucks. Oh, I get it. They all suck.
Well, then what do you not so then the acting, did you like acting as a kid or no?
Yeah, no, I liked acting very much. After the Partridge Family went on, I realized I really liked being famous. What a cool job being famous. But yeah, I liked everything about it. I liked everything about it.
Do you regret anything about it?
About what, being a child actor, an adult actor, or a performer.
Well, living in the acting industry in general, because you've had a lot of ups and downs.
I don't think I've had any downs being on TV. I had a lot of downs not being on TV. I had my ups and my specific downs when I wasn't working. I don't remember on the Partridge Family, I'm 10 to 14 years old. I don't remember having a bad day because of crack. I don't remember going to work hungover. None of those things happened to me while I was working. And all of that stuff I did when I wasn't working. I'm not great with free time.
So what are you going to do now that you're retired?
Well, I wake up in the morning and I turn on the TV and then, no, that's pretty much it. I wake up in the morning and turn on the TV. Although I have a very nice pool and a very nice wife who loves to swim. I'm in Palm Springs where the weather is always good. So I do a lot of walking because I keep reading how good that is for you. I'm only a couple of months, not even maybe into this, so I don't really know the game plan for being retired. I just know I'm not getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning anymore.
What made you decide to retire?
Well, I had some serious. Well, my wife is the answer to that question, but I had some pretty serious health problems over the last couple of years,
Mhm.
and they took me by surprise. I didn't know I was going to be healthy most of my life. And my wife said, "You got to get off the radio. You got to retire for a while." Here's what she said: "Give me 6 months of good health, and maybe we can talk about you going back to work."
So this may not be permanent.
Well, nothing's permanent. I don't think anything's that permanent.
Is there something you wanna do that you haven't done yet?
Off the cuff? No. I can't think of anything I haven't done. There's something I wanted to do, but a lot of people want to do. I wanted to sail around the world. But now that I'm in my 60s, that sounds like a huge hassle. I don't know if you do any sailing, but it's some hands-on work and nothing happens fast and bad things happen all the time. So really off the top of my head, I can't think of one thing. I've done a million. I mean, I've done some bad things, but that gives me character.
What do you think's the best time of your life that you've had?
Hmm. I'm gonna go. Well, if you're not, you can't count the Partridge Family because it's so long ago. I'm pretty happily married, so I think that's one of the best things I've done is I married the right woman. And don't get me wrong, I've married all sorts of people. It's a thing apparently that I do. But my wife Amy is spectacular, and I'm very happy, and I've settled down, and I'm shocked that I enjoy being settled down, but I do.
Settled down as in not having much to do or being married
No,
to one
I
person?
still have plenty to do, really, but it's just not. Uh, it's nothing you'll read about. I used to find things to do, and I'd end up in the National Enquirer. I don't, whatever those things were, I don't do them anymore. I just walk, watch TV, and love my wife. Oh yeah, I have two spectacular cats.
You don't find that boring?
Having cats? No, it's very exciting.
No, just in general, 'cause you're right. You did a whole bunch of things, and now it's gonna be very different, very quiet.
I don't see a lot of quietness in my future. I really just don't. For the time being, I only just started doing this, so I do watch a lot of TV and I do take a lot of walks, but uh, I don't know that I haven't been one single day that somebody's asked me to do something. And it's just a different kind of exciting.
What do you like to watch on TV?
To be honest with you, talking pictures. There's somebody on TV. I like the ID channel. I like to see who murdered who. I'm a big fan of that. I'm a huge fan of Only Murders in the Building. I can't believe that's going network. You ever seen it?
No, no, I haven't.
Well, you should, young lady. It's a really hysterical, and especially season one. You should watch that. It's great.
What, um, what do you think's been the worst time of your life?
Uh, Boy, that's tough because there have been some tough days. Being addicted to stuff that was pretty hard. Drugs, alcohol, sex. If you ask my therapist, yeah, those were real tough days. Living on and off in my car behind Ramen's Chinese uh, was really. It was odd to be without a place to stay. It was odd to deal with only. There's a lot of nice people out there on the street, but some real crazy people too. And I don't know, you get caught up in a conversation with a guy that is able to have another conversation with a person who's not here. Very odd, very weird. So those were the toughest. Not living in my car. It was a nice car. But being on the streets and not, I have a sister who loves me and had a good job at the time. And so I could always count on a hamburger or something from her. But those were the toughest times by far. Unless you count the health scare when I was in the hospital for 30 days. People go to the hospital for 30 days so they can die. And that's kind of what I thought was happening to me. But apparently that is not the case. So the hardest part for me was the drugs and alcohol.
And did you do that because you didn't have a job and it was hard to find one? Why do you
Well, without
think you
a job, it'd be hard to find the money for the drugs because drugs aren't free, no matter what they say. They say, like, oh, you crack is the end of the world. You can get stoned for $5. Yeah, maybe that's true. But the next hit where you're willing to sell, you sell your children for, that's harder to do.
so why did you do it?
Uh, you know, because I don't know, because the neighbor kids were doing it. I don't know. I did it a really long time. Yeah, I don't have a qualified answer for you on why I took drugs.
But so you were addicted, you said, to drugs and sex and a whole bunch of things. You don't think it was because, like, did you not like life for a while? Or it just
Oh no,
looked.
I hated life for a while. I sure, but and it's a two-way. It's an interesting two-way street because did I take drugs because I hated life, or did I hate life because I was on drugs? I got to go with I hated life because I was on drugs, but I'm not a qualified therapist.
When's the first time you had one?
Had
That it
one
became
what?
kind of like had a drug where it became like an addictive thing for you when you were
Mm,
introduced to it.
high school, I guess. Although I wasn't addicted to anything in high school, but I was. Here are the drugs that came aware of it in high school.
Do you still find it hard? Like, do you ever want to go back to that?
No. I mean, sometimes I'll see some show that has a lot of, drug action in it. And I go, oh man, I remember that. It was crazy. But it was, you asked what was the toughest part. Well, that was the toughest part. They're just, I can't tell you how awful drugs are. And you seem like a nice young lady, but you don't look like you're going to end up on drugs. But maybe to your listeners, don't do that, man. That's a huge drag.
What did you not like about it? Because for a lot of people, at least that I've known personally, if they've done it, it's because they like the idea of escaping from something or they're not really aware anymore of what's going on.
Nope, I just like the drugs. Big fan of drugs. I'm still a big fan of drugs, but I don't take them anymore. But it's well, to repeat myself again, that's the hard part. I don't think I took drugs because I was down and couldn't get a job. I think the fact that I was down and couldn't get a job led to a life of drugs for a while. Although I quit cigarette. This is like my big thing. I get ready to go. Oh, you're my hero. I quit drinking a 3-pack a day cigarette habit and on the same day. People said, don't do it, do one or the other. And I don't remember the date. I'm not one of those guys who goes, oh, I've been clean this long. But it's been a dozen years now since I smoked or drank. Pretty impressed with that.
What made you quit?
Fear of death, fear of jail, fear of being fired again. And, I have a life to live. My wife is a great deal younger than I am. And I thought, my death uh, preceding her life that will go on for another 40 years. I'd like to stay tuned for as long as I can because my wife just turned 40 and I'm 64 and I have iffy health. So I gotta do the things I do because I enjoy them for my children and things like that. Mostly, I'd like to stay alive a long time to be with my wife.
I know you mentioned being in the hospital, and this was last year, I think, right? When it was a 30 days,
Yeah.
because it was like stroke-like symptoms kind of thing. Um, did you, what was it like doing that? You said you were afraid. Did you think you actually were gonna die?
Well, to be honest with you, I don't remember that one. This my wife and I recently bought the house that you can sort of see behind you. Um, I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question?
Well, I was just gonna say, were you, when you were in the hospital, did you think you were gonna die? Because you were there for
Oh,
so
thank you.
long.
I don't remember a lot of it. There's a picture I was going to say now. I get it. In this house, we were house hunting, and there's a picture of me in a wheelchair looking at this house. I don't remember that at all. But no, thinking back, no, I never thought I was going to die. Other people thought I was going to die. I was in ICU. I was on all sorts of mechanical health things, and other people thought I was going to die. But by the time I could understand what was happening, I was almost better. It was really weird. This came and lasted a couple of years, but it seems to have vanished quickly. I'm big on that. The other day, not the other day, but within the last month or so, I was sitting approximately where I am now, and I had a pain that was so bad. And I thought I said to Amy, I said, I can take a lot. I'm just going to take this till it passes. I don't know what it is, but it's bad. And it got worse and worse and worse. And finally I said, no, you gotta take me, go take me to the emergency room. I don't know what this is, but it's awful. And I went to the hospital and the doctor took an X-ray or whatever it was. And he said, well, I've got your culprit. You're passing kidney stones. Wow, right now? And he gave me some drugs, not good ones. By the way, I'm not one of those guys. If I have a reason to take, if my doctor says, here, take these drugs, I'm going to take, I'm not the guy who says, oh no, I can't take any drugs. No, I'll take all the drugs a doctor gives me. Unfortunately, they're listening to your podcast at this very moment thinking, I'm never giving that guy drugs again. So I never, ever, ever once thought I was going to die. Since I've had these health issues, I realized, well, I'm going to die someday, which, believe it or not, I was never really convinced of that. Other people die. My mom died. My dad died. Some friends have died. But until I got this, I was never really convinced I was going to die ever, ever, ever.
Why? Most people are. You know you're going to. How
Well,
do you
yeah,
think you were gonna defeat that?
oh, I didn't give it any great thought. I just thought I just didn't have an end game like I have now. This is what happens. This is what I've done. I did a movie with Elvis when I was 7. I wonder what I'm going to be doing at 75. But now I think the answer is, oh, I got it. Now you'll be dying. I was wrong in that estimation that I will never die. But I never once feared death because I didn't believe in it. I just didn't believe it.
Is there a way you wanna die? If you could pick?
Yeah, in bed with my wife, preferably, and right afterwards, if you know what I'm saying. Or maybe right before, because that'd be funny.
Not for her.
That's why.
What do
Can you
you
imagine that? You're kissing your husband. You're a little older, and you have a husband in this scenario, and you're having a great time. You're kissing, you're hugging. He just goes and dies right there in the sack. That's comedy.
That's traumatic.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it otherwise.
Well, what do you think happens when you die?
I'm a big fan of hoping there's heaven, but I don't know, and it's not really my job to know. That's out of my wheelhouse, if you will. I think everything that happens to you after death is somebody else's hassle. Like I said, I'm 64, my wife is 41. She's going to have to deal with me. We have plans because it's just that I enjoy it. She's not as big of a fan as I am, but I enjoy talking about, hey man, I'm going to be dead 20 to 30. Oh, she's 40. No, she'll live another 40 years maybe. But I enjoy the concept. We even already know what we're going to do. We don't know exactly how we're going to do it, but I'm going to get cremated. And then my wife's going to put the urn on a shelf somewhere. And years and years and years down the road, she will get cremated. And one of our nephews or whoever it is, a friend, will go down to Cabo San Lucas. Do you know the arch at Cabo San Lucas?
No. Mm-mm.
Ah, look it up. It's great. What happens is literally you can be in a boat or several times a year on foot, and the tide will go out, and you can walk to the Pacific Ocean in
Oh, wow.
50 to 100 feet. You can go from Mexico and the Atlantic, I believe, and then you just walk right in to the Pacific, and that's where we're going to scatter our ashes. Somebody, we're dead. I don't know that anybody's really going to do this. If somebody said, "Hey, will you scatter my ashes in some really inconvenient space?" I would say, "Yeah, sure," and then I just never do it. I'd be made into jewelry.
But that doesn't scare you at all?
Nope. Short answer. And as you'll know, with your continued success on this podcast, is the devil, the enemy, is one word answers. Nobody says nope and is doing a good job. So I will finish all sorts of thoughts you have, but no, I'm not scared of it at all. I don't wish for it, but I don't think it's gonna be painful. I don't think that I'm gonna get mugged right afterwards. No, I'm not scared of it.
What do you think's the greatest achievement you've done in your life?
Dante, that's my son. That's probably the, and also my daughter, but she lives in England and gets a little less press than Dante. But the most impressive thing in the world is I've it's been a life of pretty good things. I married, I had kids, I wrote a book, I was the guy on TV. I'm good. I'm caught up with all sorts of great. I don't need greatness. Greatness could be a hassle, man. Greatness is like specifically great would be Alexander the Great, right? That's a guy who's great. It's in his name. And the whole time he was Alexander the Great, he was worried that somebody was going to kill him. And sure enough, they did. They poisoned his meat or whatever the hell he had. So greatness can be like, just like being really rich, probably could, you got to watch your back all the time. And a guy that's great, a person that's great, is constantly in fear of also other people falling off the greatness cliff, not being great anymore. Because you got to tell you this, one of the greatest insults you could give me or other people, this is a long time ago, would be to call us a has-been. Oh, you're on the Partridge, you want a has-been, you're on. Hey, you have to do something really good to ever be called a has-been. Technically, Bill Clinton has-been. He's out of office. He's not doing. What's he doing lately? So yeah, I'm down with being a has-been. I mean, if you offered me a job that paid $1 million a year, and that's not even that difficult. I checked this out. Do you know the little kids on what's that? American Family, Modern Family. You know those kids?
Mhm.
They're making $350,000 a week. They'll be fine. You want to know what I made on the Partridge Family?
What did you make?
$400 a week. $400. It was a wrong time to be a child star.
That must have been good back then, though.
I don't know. I didn't get it. It went into some bank account. And that, when I turned 18, I got my money in that bank account and I spent it in a real hard weekend. But it was a great weekend, what I remember of it.
What did you spend it on?
Uh, well, I was going to write another book, and my friend said I had a great title for it. I was going to call it Hookers and Blow. But I was 18. I don't know where they kept the hookers. I knew the blow. But yeah, I've done some wonderful and silly things. And I'll repeat myself from earlier. Drugs are probably the silliest. Although drunk, a lot more people die drunk than they do on drugs. Did you know that?
No.
You know why you didn't know that?
No.
Because I'm making it up as we talk, but it's in the ballpark of real. It's in the ball. Like, you don't get hit by that many drivers on crack or Quaaludes or whatever the drugs are these days. You know, you get a drunk person behind the wheel. Alcohol is a real problem.
So it seems like, because to you, and correct me if I'm wrong, but life seems to be about having a good time, right?
Oh, no, 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 no. Good times are about having a good time. Life is a bit of a struggle. I don't live for myself anymore. I can't, if I would take a bunch of drugs right now, I wouldn't just be hurting myself desperately. I've got a wife who depends on me, and there's
That's
all sorts.
why that's why you got to die differently.
Yeah, that is exactly right. That is exactly. And thanks for being on board about my death thing.
What do you how long do you see yourself? Do you want to live like another 10, 20 years? Do you want to do something in that time? Like, is there something you really want to do for your
I
family or personally?
I do often think about writing another book. You ever written a book? It's a hassle, man. And I was writing the last book I wrote was about myself. I knew all the answers going into it, and it was still really difficult. Although, this is kind of iffy. The way I wrote the book, I had dictation software, and I would sit and I'd write the book by talking into a microphone,
Mhm.
and I would continue to drink, and then eventually the voice recognition thing wouldn't understand me anymore because I was slurring and being whatever. So another tip: don't be too drunk when you write your own book.
What would you write your next book about?
Well, I'm not really that much of an expert in other things besides myself, but I don't know, observations, things like that. I feel very comfortable with. I would go on the radio 4 hours a day every day with essentially no prep. I'd walk in, I'd turn on my phone, start much like this moment. I just start talking about stuff, and there's other people in the room, and they could talk about stuff. But I was fully confident at that job, much like I thought I would never die. I thought I would never fail in radio, and I didn't. I did very, very well. I did a 35-year run on the radio, I think. And that was pretty magnificent, I must tell you. The radio show, the way I like to do it. And then big corporations got in and started selling stuff. But the way I did radio for the first 25 years or so, that was really awesome. It was really fun.
What did you like most about it? Was it interviewing people or?
No, I interviewed people because, somebody said the Coldplay is doing a concert somewhere in my listening area. So you got the guy from Coldplay on. Um, and that was fun. But no, the most fun was not knowing anything about what was going to happen next. Playing a commercial or a song, and nobody in the world, including me, knows what's going to happen when the song is over. Like, what are we going to? Because I had no clock, no things like that. I just hoped for the best and got it.
Do you have a favorite episode you did that you think went really well?
Episode of
Your
the
radio
radio
program.
show.
Yeah.
I'm sure if I thought about it, I'd have one. I got punched in the face by Vince Neil of Motley Crue one time, and that was good. I'm a big fan of violence on the radio, apparently. Oh, okay, I'll tell you what. And it's the same kind of thing. We had my first year in radio, and I was a member of another guy's show. It's called John Lander and the Nut Hut. And I was the nut. It paid me money, and I'm fine and great with it. But we were in Philadelphia, and Philadelphia Flyers goalie, Rick Tocchet, I believe is his name, he was scheduled for 3 or 4 days and just not showing up. And people will take a lot, like in Philly, hockey and sports in general is king. But not for me. I don't watch sports. I don't know sports. I didn't know who this guy was. And he finally showed up, and he was, I don't know, he's rude and grumpy. And I said, you talk a pretty tough game for a guy 3 years away from being Snoopy in the Ice Capades. And he hit me so hard and broke my nose. And I'm talking to the microphone like you are. And he broke my nose. And it was, I took it, it's bleeding. The nosebleeds are bad. I'm bleeding all over the place, but I'm continuing. There are people pulling us apart. That was probably, and people would call up for years for the rest of my run in Philly. And we had isolated the sound of my nose breaking. And it just went, there are people yelling, but then you'd hear, and that was the #1 request for the next several years till I finally moved on to my own show in Chicago. Hey, can you play the sound of Danny's nose breaking again? That was awesome.
See, that doesn't embarrass you though? See, I would see that as like such a failure of the episode because it's like you want to keep it together, you want it to be interesting, but then if unexpected things happen, then it's not really planned, and then who knows where it's going to end up. That doesn't bother you at all.
To be honest with you, I'm not even sure completely what you're talking about. I was doing an interview. A guy under his own volition smacked me in the head. It was mayhem. You'll find out that mayhem can be your friend, young lady.
You didn't want to edit it though. Edit it out.
No, I wanted to edit it in. We played it all the time.
What do you
Nothing
think?
rocks in radio like reality. Nothing's better than a baby being born on the air because somebody's wife is pregnant, and that's the moment we're going to do. And that's, again, I didn't prep very much at all. In the end, I did because my wife was very talented and wrote some stuff for me. But I can't see where you'd think that was a failure. If you
Oh
missed
no,
anything,
maybe not for you. For me, I would not. That would not be fun for me.
you get punched in the nose,
Someone.
you'd be surprised. But okay.
What do you What do you think you're gonna when you're talking about your children? Is there something in particular you're proud of for each of them? I know you said specifically your son, but how about for your daughter in England
No,
too?
my daughter lives in Brighton, England, and is married to a scientist. Lovely young man, 6'8" tall, though. So that's a lot of young man. No, they basically they do the big things you have to do. They tell the truth. They work hard. I'm very proud of them just because they exist in regular time with regular people and can cope with it. I had a very tough time dealing with people for a while.
Is there something you regret being a parent? Do you think you didn't do well?
Uh, yes, it'd be 100 things. My kids had a difficult time for a while, and I thought that was because of me, and probably was because of my failures. But I'm just flat out proud of them both. They're both lovely people. They tell the truth. They work hard.
Do you think they got that from you or your wife?
They didn't get telling the truth from me. Um, they got working hard for me. On my retirement show, a lot of my old bosses from radio around the country called in, and the one thing they seemed to agree upon is everybody was shocked how hard I was willing and sometimes insisted on working. But try being out of work for 14 years and living in a 2000, no, it wasn't even that long, a 1989 BMW two-door. That's hard. That's hard. Working hard is a pleasure.
Is there something in the movie industry, because from since you've started when you were young to now, do you think it's gotten better or worse being an
Well,
actor?
I got to go with worse, only because who are the movie stars, man? There's so many channels. I'm watching. I just started watching a show on my treadmill. It's called 1883, and it's great. And Sam Elliott's great, and everybody's great. But there's 87 things on against it. Like who knows? Who knows who's in that show? You got Sam Elliott, much like with Yellowstone. You got Kevin Costner, but there's just too many of them. There's just too many shows. I live not that far from the Cary Grant estates. Cary Grant, that's a movie star. That's the real deal. So I think it's gotten worse in the fact that it's just unimportant. And it used to be so important. You get on as a kid, you'd get on Tiger Beat and 17 magazine, and then the Partridge Family was on the cover of several magazines or several TV shows and magazines. We had two covers of the TV Guide, a magazine that no longer exists. Oh, that's shameful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one last question for you. What type of if you could pick like a song, what do you think you'd pick to describe your personality? If you had like a theme song that would play for you.
That's kind of funny. I did have a theme song. Come on down and meet everybody. Come on, get happy. There, I got a theme song, and every listener you have over 40. So, how did you not know that Danny Bonaduce had a theme song?
Well, I mean your own personal. That's the Partridge Family, though.
This close. I'm on the spot with that. Every Rose Has Its Thorn by Pete Poison.
Okay. Why that song?
Because I could no wait, Wham, where they say this. This is the best line in a song, although it has opponents now. Guilty feet ain't got no rhythm. Nobody writes songs like that anymore. Maybe they shouldn't, but they don't.
Guilty feet ain't got no rhythm?
Yeah, it's a line in do you know it's my
What does
wife
it
knows.
mean? The
I'm
line.
sorry.
What does it mean? The line.
It's a song by Wham. Who cares? But the line is supposed to mean you cheat on your girlfriend and you try and have a good time, but you can't dance because guilty feet ain't got no rhythm.
I see. Okay, so because you're guilty, you can't dance well.
Apparently that's true. Although there is another song coming up. It's a newer by 100 years, I think. A song by Tim McGraw, and in it he says this, and he says it several times. He says, "Here's a comment. I jumped out of the plane. I did all this, and I lasted 2.7 seconds on a bull named Fu Manchu." Who writes that in a song? That could be the greatest line ever.
Well, Danny, I appreciate your time. I'm sorry. I know I went a little over the time your wife gave me, but I appreciate very much getting to talk with you. And I gotta admit, you're quite a personality, quite a character. Very, I don't know. I don't know what I expected, but you're different than what I expected.
Better or worse?
um,
You asked me what song describes my life, and I answered. You have to answer this. Better or worse?
I mean, I'm not gonna say you're one of my heroes. I want to be like you, but I admire your vulnerability. Most people are not as raw as you are.
Okay, I will take that. And this, by the way, it was a pleasure here. You don't need probably a compliment while you're doing this, but I'll tell you, you're very good at this. And I think this is going to be a very successful podcast. And now, if you want to know what I do in retirement, I'm going to the dentist.
All right, well, happy cleaning.
Oh, no. That's what it'll be. See these? Not one of them real. All fake. Don't live a life of people punching in the face. There are repercussions. All right, man. This was a lot of fun. And I'll do it again if you want, or I wish you all the success in the world.
Okay, bye.
Bye.